Exposed. The Sinister Secrets of Your Inner Demon, a spine-chilling horror premiere 2025. Under the pallid glow of the streetlights, Lucy stumbled home, fatigue weighing heavily on her shoulders. The exhausting night shift as a nurse left her hollow, and all she wanted was to embrace her daughter, Ella. But as she approached her yard, an unsettling sight clawed its way into her consciousness. Strange symbols carved into the grass, dark shapes that seemed to pulse with an eerie life of their own. The woods behind her house loomed like hungry beasts, their overgrown branches grasping at the air, whispering secrets that felt like a warning. Panic ensued, her heart racing as dread coiled in her stomach. Was it the exhaustion playing tricks on her? No, she suspected. Something wicked lurked here. She shook off the chill, attributing the symbols to a wayward art project by neighborhood children. Still, her breath came quick and shallow, every rustle in the brush echoing like a ghostly voice. The warm laughs of kids outside felt distant, drawn away from her by a thick fog of foreboding. Hadn't the neighborhood always been a refuge? Hadn't she cherished the camaraderie of friendly faces? But now, it all felt like a facade, a thin veil hiding darkness just beneath the surface. Days slipped by, dragging Lucy deeper into suspicion. The kind old lady, Mrs. Hargrove, had vanished like a shadow at dusk. No goodbyes, no explanation. And then Ted, the mechanic who'd seen her through countless car troubles, disappeared too. Rumors began to bubble, sour and toxic, rippling through the community like a sudden storm. They're just going through a rough patch, she reassured herself. But those reassurances fell flat as she felt the icy fingers of paranoia wrap around her heart. Lucy's worries drew her to the dark whispers of town lore, the folklore, drenched in blood and betrayal. As she pieced together disturbing stories of the founding of her neighborhood, her gut twisted tighter. Charles Gibbons, the town's revered founder, wasn't he just some charming figure? No, his legacy bore the stains of dread, a connection to dark rituals and punishing shadows. Her mind spun with the notion that this seemingly perfect enclave hid hidings much like those symbols carved in her yard, telling tales of malign forces feeding on fear. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. A chill engulfed her as she realized the depths of deceit that lay before her. People she once trusted wore smiles that felt like masks, hiding sinister truths beneath gleaming facades. The weight of the darkness pressed on her chest, each night thick with a palpable tension, darkness creeping from every corner of the neighborhood. Even the embrace of her daughter brought unease. What shadows lurked just outside their warm bubble? As twilight cast its shadows over her yard, Ella's innocent laugh reverberated through her like a haunting melody. It filled Lucy with fleeting comfort, but as a shiver ran down her spine, she couldn't shake the feeling that the woods were not the only threat. The bated breath of the community felt like a tight noose, whispers of something unspeakable, waiting for her to uncover it, to unravel the truth. And in that moment, she realized, maybe her greatest fear was not the malevolence of her neighbors or the tales of the past, but the awakening of something dark within herself. With that knowledge came a realization that she was racing against time. A choice lay ahead, one that could intertwine the fate of her family with the sinister legacy of the suburban mythos that threatened to consume her. A storm rolled in that night, dark clouds mingling with the wavering light of the street lamps. Lucy peered through her rain-specked window, gripping a mug of cooling coffee as blasts of wind howled outside, manic whispers mingling with the pitter-patter of rain on the roof. Shadows twisted in unexpected shapes, flickering with every flash of lightning, forced her imagination into overdrive. In that moment, she began to doubt her own mind, worry gnawing at her sanity. Ella sat cross-legged on the living room floor, absorbed in her toys, blissfully unaware of the dark thoughts spiraling in her mother's head. Lucy forced herself to smile at her daughter's laughter, though it felt strained. There was something amiss in the air, a heaviness that clawed at Lucy's throat, making it hard to swallow. Suddenly, a loud crack of thunder erupted, shaking the window frames and sending Ella squealing into Lucy's side. Lucy wrapped her arms protectively around her, but the warmth soon dissipated as fear coursed through her veins. "It's just the storm, sweetheart," she whispered, trying to anchor her own anxiety. Then an idea struck her. A desperate need for answers pulled her to the attic. The scuttle of her footsteps echoed like a heartbeat. Each step felt heavier than the last as dark memories of the whispers from the folklore clawed at her mind. She rummaged through boxes filled with the detritus of her family's past, desperate to uncover anything related to the neighborhood's sinister edge. Old photographs, letters, and trinkets spilled out, each one telling a piece of a haunting story. Her hand trembled as she pulled out a dusty journal, bound in cracked leather. It belonged to her grandmother, who had spoken of dark omens biding their time between dreams and waking. Lucy opened it with shaking hands, the faint scent of mildew wafting toward her, mixing with the cold dread in her chest. The pages were filled with cryptic symbols remarkably similar to those in her yard, scrawled in a frantic hand. "Flee the shadows," one warning read, "for they return with the blood of the innocent." Chills raced down Lucy's spine. Was this warning meant for her? For Ella? The rain continued its relentless assault outside, matching the frantic beat of Lucy's heart. She needed to know more. Bolstered by desperation, she dug deeper into the memories of the neighborhood. Names whirled through her mind: Mrs. Hargrove, Ted, the missing pieces feeling inexplicably tethered to her. What had they unearthed? What old pain had stirred to life? Suddenly, the floor creaked behind her. A sound: footsteps. Her breath hitched in her throat. Ella remained blissfully unaware, her attention consumed by her toys. Lucy's heart raced, the darkness closing in with its icy fingers around her. She turned slowly, dread pooling in her stomach. The attic door swung open, revealing a shadowed figure silhouetted against the dim light filtering through the cracks. Panic surged through her as she strained to see who or what was standing there. "Mom? Are you okay?" Ella's innocent voice jolted Lucy back to reality. She looked down at her daughter, realizing her fears had twisted into terrifying shapes. "Just stay there, honey," Lucy commanded, her voice steadier than she felt. But the figure moved closer, flickering in and out of sight like a ghostly apparition. The remnants of the storm outside danced on the walls, creating the illusion of faces pressed against the wood, whispering her name. As the shadow stepped into the light, Lucy's heart sank. Was this her fear made flesh, or something much worse lurking in the recesses of her greatest nightmare? "Lucy," the figure beckoned softly. Blood drained from her face, her thoughts racing. For they were not coming for her, but for Ella. As the shadow loomed closer, cold and oppressive, Lucy knew the time for choice had come. She had to uncover the truth, but at what cost? What if the shadows were just the beginning? The figure stepped forward, emerging from the shadows into the thin, flickering light. Lucy's heart hammered against her ribcage, each pulse a jarring reminder of the terror that clawed at her throat. The face was pale, gaunt, with sunken eyes that seemed to swallow the light around them. It was the ghost of a person she should have known, but who? "Mom." Ella's voice quavered, a tremor of fear piercing through her innocence. Lucy pivoted, instinctively shielding her daughter from the creeping dread that coiled around them like smoke. "Stay behind me," she growled, her voice cloaked in panic. The shadow did not respond, its gaze fixated on Ella, an overwhelming malevolence radiating from its very being. The air thickened, a suffocating weight pressing upon Lucy's chest. She stepped back instinctively, heart racing as she glanced around the attic. In her frantic search for answers, she felt exposed, unarmed against this dark presence. "Who are you?" Lucy managed to whisper, her voice trembling. She didn't want to show fear, yet it clung to her skin, a greasy film of despair. It wasn't just a shadow, it was alive, and it was hungry. "Lucy," it crooned. The name slithered off its lips like dripping venom. "I've waited for you." For a fleeting second, fear drew back, replaced by a flicker of recognition. The shadows of her childhood rushed back, memories wrapped in nostalgia and horror. Stories her grandmother had whispered after, dark legends of things that lingered between worlds, hungry for the innocent. It was all true. Lucy's grip tightened around Ella. "Get away from her." The words burst from her lips, sharper than shards of glass. The figure floated toward them, gliding unnaturally on a wave of darkness. Lucy stumbled backward, her foot catching on the edge of an old wooden box. She fell, pulling Ella with her. The impact knocked the wind out of her, but in that pain came clarity. She had to act. With a hard breath, she pushed Ella behind her, reaching for the journal that had slipped from her grasp during the fall. The ink-stained pages fluttered like frantic birds as she clutched it tightly, a fragile shield against the nightmare. "Flee the shadows!" The text burned in her mind, an echo of her grandmother's desperate warnings. But how could she run? The shadows were everywhere now, pouring from corners and enveloping the attic in a shroud of despair. Each breath tasted of rotten leaves and decay. "Come to us, Lucy," the figure whispered, its voice low and serpentine. "Join the stream. Let us have what is ours." A sickening realization washed over her, the history of the neighborhood, the missing children, the whispers. It was all connected. They were guardians of something terrible, and she was their newest target. "I want to let you take her," Lucy cried, the words fierce, a formation of defiance in the dark was closing in on them. If she could harness the strength from the journal, maybe she could turn the tide. Desperation surged through her limbs, igniting a wild determination. Lightning struck outside, momentarily illuminating the room, casting the figure's twisted form into stark relief. Its mouth split into a ghastly grin, revealing rows of teeth too sharp for anything of this world. "Your blood will feed us," it hissed, drawing nearer, time elongated as Lucy bolted upright, feelings of her grandmother's strength filling her with resolve. She opened the journal, frantically searching for the symbols she had seen before. Just as the figure lunged, a shriek erupted from the attic window. A burst of blinding light flooded the space, scattering shadows like leaves before the wind. And in that moment, Ella screamed. Not from fear, but from something worse. Something cracking in their shared reality. "What was that?" Lucy whispered, barely able to breathe. A new sound arose, rumbling through the heart of the storm. A voice, cold and powerful, murmured in the depths of her mind, but this voice was not the figure's. It was someone else entirely, someone she feared would return and seek the truth buried long ago. Would the shadows continue to linger, or was this the opening of an even darker chapter yet to come? The light from the window faded as quickly as it had bloomed, leaving the attic strangely muted, the reverberations of that voice lingering like a bad dream. Lucy felt the air shift, tangible and cold, crawling under her skin. She could barely hear Ella's whimpers, muffled by the thudding in her ears. With a fearful glance backward, she saw the figure pause, its grin transforming into a tight, unsettling line. What should have been fear in its sunken eyes morphed into something curious, almost delighted. "Ah, the past returns," it crooned, its voice dripping with a macabre sweetness. Lucy's hands trembled as she clutched the journal, feeling the weight of generations past pressing down on her. This book was more than ink on pages. It was a desperate plea, a call to arms against the darkness that had faded into the corners of her memory, but had never truly left. "Ella, we have to go," Lucy shouted, her voice trembling. She scrambled to her feet, the room seeming to tilt as shadows danced unnaturally around her. "Mommy, it's so dark. I can't see." Ella's fear-stricken voice broke through the dread. A whisper like leaves rustling in the dead of night filled the attic, coiling around them. "Stay with us. Stay forever," the figure beckoned, its gaze piercing deep into Lucy's soul. Lucy's heart raced. She could feel the weight of that stare. It invaded her thoughts, seeking the deepest recesses of her heart. What did it want? Did it crave her adoption into the darkness? "No!" she screamed, the terror spilling over. "We want to be part of your nightmare." With determination, she opened the journal to a page marked by her grandmother's careful, flickering script. The symbols glowed faintly, illuminating the dimness, like fireflies in the night. Words surged through her mind, a mantra of protection against the malevolence. "In this light, I reclaim what was lost. In this light, I sever our ties." The figure recoiled, the expression on its face shifting from confidence to horror as the incantation flowed from Lucy's lips. Shadows around her writhed in protest, twisting against her command. In a flash, Ella's voice intertwining with Lucy's chant grew louder, bolstering her confidence. "We want to go with you. You can't have her." The power of their bond ignited a brilliant light, erupting from the pages of the journal. And then there was silence. The darkness momentarily ceased its advance, surrounding them in an eerie, suspenseful pause. But the quiet held a hunger, a sweet anticipation. Lucy felt the pressure behind her eyes tighten, as if the walls themselves drew closer. Desperation clawed at the edges of her sanity, urging her to look back, to see what lurked behind the veil of shadows. Just as she turned, time snapped back like a taut wire, and the figure lunged once more, its elongated fingers reaching for Ella. "Your destiny awaits, Lucy." Lucy stumbled back, her scream torn from her throat, just as the attic door slammed shut with a force that resonated through every fiber of her being. The sound echoed, leaving nothing but stillness, and her heart racing against the darkened silence. Fingers tingling, sweat beading on her skin, Lucy blinked at the door. What had just happened? Was it over? But then that voice echoed again, deep and booming, resonating through her chest. "This is just the beginning. The end draws near." Lucy felt a frigid chill run down her spine, realization creeping in this was only a tiny glimpse of what was to come. Ella clung to her side, eyes wide with fear, as the shadows began to seep again, feeding off the terror they instilled. "Mom, what do we do?" Ella whispered, her voice trembling. And in that moment, before Lucy could answer, the creaking floorboards underfoot became the only sound as darkness began to envelop them once more. What lay ahead would either break them or bind them forever, but they had to find out where to turn, lest they lose themselves to the hungry void. Would the shadows yield to their fight, or had they only just woken a slumbering beast? The air thickened with an almost suffocating dread, pulsating around them like a living entity eager to claim its next victims. Lucy felt the prickling sensation of fear crawling over her skin, every instinct screaming at her to run, yet her feet felt rooted to the spot. The journal slipped from her grasp, landing with a muffled thud on the dusty floorboards as darkness swirled around them. "Mommy!" Ella's voice cracked like a whip, jolting Lucy from her stupor. She turned to see Ella being slowly pulled into the shadow, an insatiable void that seemed to breathe deep within its murky depths. Panic clawed at Lucy's throat. She couldn't let this happen. With a surge of adrenaline, she lunged forward, grabbing Ella's hand just in time, wrestling against whatever intangible force was reaching out for them. "I want to let it take you," Lucy gasped, her heart hammering in her chest. She could feel Ella's small fingers trembling in her grip, and it fueled her determination. The shadows pulsed angrily, angry tendrils thrashing around them like vipers. "You cannot escape." The guttural voice echoed, reverberating through the rafters above them. "Lucy's light shines brighter, revealing your lies." It was not just her voice now, it was their unity, a fierce melody rising defiantly against the encroaching night. The incantation from the journal sparked back to life in her mind, and she began to chant again, words spilling from her lips like fire. And then the shadows recoiled. It was a sight both breathtaking and terrifying, dark shapes recoiling from the brilliance radiating from the journal, which had somehow ignited, casting fierce, flickering shadows across the attic walls. "Watch out!" Ella cried, pointing as a surge of dark energy coalesced into a single wretched figure, a grotesque amalgamation of lost souls swirling back into shape, eyes gleaming with hatred. It pulled itself together in front of them, its grin now a cruel sneer. "Your light is futile. This is my domain." The words reverberated in the room, tangled in the suffocating silence. Lucy felt her breath quickening, and fear washed over her again. No amount of light could extinguish this darkness. "Stop it!" she shouted, flinging her hands toward the figure, willing the shadows back. "You don't own us." It was almost a plea as she tightened her grip on Ella's hand. The power of her love collided with the malevolence before them, resonating painfully. But the figure laughed, a chilling sound that made Lucy's stomach churn. "Oh, but you belong to me, Lucy. You always have." Suddenly, the attic pulsed, drawing them into a vortex of swirling black, making their surroundings warp and twist. The air grew stale, laden with desperation. They were being pulled apart. Lucy could see flickers of light extricating themselves from her own memories, trapped among the shadows. Fragments of laughter, of joy, of peace. "Mom, please!" Ella sobbed, fear spilling from her small frame as they fought the crushing force. "I want to give in!" Lucy screamed, pressing her focus on the hymn from the journal. The words transformed, becoming a frenzy of both defiance and desperation. The shadows screamed, and for a moment, the darkness flickered. Had she actually gained ground? Was the void truly weakening? But as quickly as the hope surged, it was extinguished by a feral laugh, echoing through the oppressive stillness. Suddenly, the world twisted again, shadows gathering speed. "You think you're stronger than your bloodline?" Lucy gasped, feeling the room spin. "What are you talking about?" Panic clawed at her throat. The figure tilted its head, a mocking smile poised on its twisted lips. "Did you really think you could uncover the truth and survive? You're not the first to come seeking answers." Then the shadows surged with renewed power around them, tightening the grip that threatened to crush their spirits. From the depths, the voice rose, a crescendo of absolute certainty. "You will see what your lineage has hidden. You will understand your purpose and despair." The insatiable dark surged toward them, swallowing the light. Whole would they be engulfed in the treacherous secrets of their lineage, or could they find a way to sever the ties and reclaim their lives? The room warped, a grotesque kaleidoscope of shadows as Lucy and Ella struggled against the force pulling them apart. Lucy could feel the chill of the void pricking at her skin, slipping under her clothes like a snake, clinging to her very essence. "Ella!" she shouted, feeling desperation claw at her heart. "Hold on to me." Ella's wide eyes glimmered in the dim light, terror etched across her small face. The darkness writhed around them, seeming to have a life of its own, seeking to consume their very souls. Lucy clutched her daughter tightly, the warmth of Ella's hand a faint reminder that they were still connected. "We can't let it win." The figure before them, a mishmash of tortured souls, pulsated with malevolent energy. Its voice dripped with disdain. "You think love can save you? How quaint. Love is the chain that binds you to me." With every pulse of the dark energy, the room felt smaller, more oppressive, the wooden beams creaking under the weight of despair. Lucy's mind raced, hunting for a solution, anything that could turn the tide. She thought of the words from the journal, still swirling in her mind like a whisper. "Together," she yelled, summoning all her strength. "We will bring the light." Their surroundings dimmed momentarily, allowing her to glimpse vague memories hovering just beyond reach. Ella laughing, the feel of sunlight on her skin, days spent in laughter without fear. Those simple moments reignited a flicker of hope. Lucy squeezed Ella's hand tighter and began to chant the incantation again, pouring every ounce of love into those words. The shadows writhed violently, screeching in protest, and the dark figure stumbled back as the light began to burst forth from the journal. It expanded, pushing against the cloying darkness that sought to envelop them. But the malevolence was not ready to retreat. "You think you're so brave. This hurts, doesn't it? The truth is coming, dear Lucy." The shadows flickered but then struck back with a violent velocity. Lucy felt a wave of nausea wash over her as the oppressive energy clamped down around them, squeezing until she thought her bones would crack. Ella whimpered beside her, and Lucy forced herself to look into her child's eyes. She needed to be strong. But the shadows twisted into mocking faces, revealing glimpses of Lucy's past. Faded memories of laughter turned to screams, moments of darkness bubbling up, pain, betrayal, loss. It was a twisted reflection of her lineage, her own demons clawing their way to the surface. "Stop it!" she roared, her voice rising above the cacophony around them. "I am not like you." The figure recoiled, momentarily thrown by her conviction. You cannot deny your heritage. They all came before you. You will inherit this pain, and you will teach your child the same." With renewed determination, Lucy closed her eyes, focusing on the words of the journal. The light around them grew brighter, forcing back the shadows, revealing secrets long hidden in the corners of her mind. Each beam amplified her love for Ella, twisting it into an incandescent shield that pierced the heart of the darkness. The room trembled as the dark shape began to unravel, its form destabilizing, scattering into tendrils of despair. "No! You will not escape. You cannot outrun your fate." "I will try," Lucy screamed, lifting the journal above her head, drawing the light into a blinding orb. In that moment, a sharp crack echoed through the attic, like glass shattering. A fissure opened beneath them, the very foundation of the darkness splitting. "Mom!" Ella cried, her voice rising in panic as a swirling vortex formed at their feet, threatening to swallow them whole. They were losing ground, the vortex drawing them in. "Hold on!" Lucy shouted. "We don't have to go back." As they tumbled toward the abyss, a thought pierced through the swirling chaos. This wasn't just a fight for survival. It was a confrontation with the past. What truths waited for them on the other side of that chasm? What would they uncover in the pit of their darkness? Would they emerge stronger, or would the shadows claim them for good? The world around them dissolved, the swirling darkness swallowing their screams as they plummeted into the void. Lucy squeezed Ella's hand, praying, willing the journal's light to guide them through this endless fall. The screams of the tortured souls echoed all around them, specters of lost hope fluttering like moths around an unseen flame, clawing at the edges of their sanity. "Where are we going?" Ella whispered, her voice a fragile thread in the chaos. Panic surged through Lucy as she scanned the abyss, searching for answers in those flickering shadows. "I don't know, sweetheart. Just hold on." Panic made her heart race. She felt the fear snaking around her throat like a noose. Suddenly, a harsh wind whipped through the darkness, pulling at their hair and clothes, snapping at their skin like icy fingers. In an instant, the tornado of shadows exploded, sweeping away the extent of the void. They landed hard. The impact knocked the breath from Lucy's lungs, and for a moment, all she could do was lie there, dazed and gasping. When the world began to focus again, she blinked against bright, ghostly light, finding herself in a vast, desolate landscape. "Mom! Look!" Ella's voice pierced through the haze as she pointed ahead. A mansion loomed in the distance, its windows dark gaping wounds against the pale background. The shadows that had once tormented them slithered confidently across the ground, approaching the decaying structure. There was something familiar about this place, a gnawing sensation that twisted in Lucy's chest. "Lucy," a whisper floated through the air like a ghostly sigh. The voice was chillingly soft, dripping with familiarity, yet distinctly wrong. The shadows danced at her feet, beckoning her forward. Heart pounding, she turned to Ella, who was staring wide-eyed at the mansion. "We need to go back," the young girl whimpered, tugging at Lucy's sleeve. "It's not safe." I can't," Lucy replied, her heart heavy with the weight of inevitability. The shadows mirrored her inner turmoil, writhing with impatience, as if they sensed her hesitation. Footsteps echoed from behind, as the dark figure they had encountered before materialized from the shadows, towering over them, its presence suffocating. "You see, this is your legacy, Lucy. You can run, but the darkness will always find you." "How do you know my name?" Lucy demanded, fighting to keep her voice steady. "Because I have been waiting for you to come home," it sneered, the words draped in malice. "You think escaping was enough? This family is cursed. You cannot break free from what binds you." Lucy's stomach turned at the implications of its words. Fear coiled like a snake within her, squeezing tighter. The house was calling her. She could feel it in the marrow of her bones. "Mom, we can't listen to it. It's lying," Ella cried, pulsing with desperation. "Am I?" the figure asked, an unsettling glint dancing in its eyes. "Tell me, Lucy, what do you remember about your mother's last words?" The air around them crackled with dread. The memories surged, uninvited, her mother, desperate and terrified, dragging Lucy away from the truth she'd unearthed. The truth that had drawn the darkness to them, the truth that had sealed their fate. "Look closely," the figure taunted, gesturing toward the house. It dissolved into shadows, beckoning them forward into the mansion's maw. "You must confront it all or lose everything." Lucy felt the pull, a sickening compulsion to step closer, to explore the family shackles she had long tried to shake off. Torn between fear and the need to protect Ella, Lucy hesitated on the threshold, teetering on the brink of a decision that could steal their souls forever. "Do we go in?" Ella urged, her little voice trembling, "or do we turn back?" The weight of the choice overwhelmed Lucy. The shadows whispered promises and threats, dark truths mingling with fears. She could run, but could she truly escape? As the shadows danced closer, the fleeting light from the journal dimming around them, Lucy realized the answer. They must confront the darkness or allow it to consume them. Together, Lucy whispered, uncertainty curdling on her tongue. And as she took the first step into the mansion, a surge of energy enveloped them, shadows screaming. What awaited them in the depths of that forsaken place? Would the truth grant them strength, or doom them to their family's dark legacy? Darkness enveloped them as they crossed the threshold, the heavy air thick with unspoken horrors. The mansion creaked in greeting, the sound echoing like a mournful cry, beckoning them deeper into its maw. With each step, Lucy felt the ancient wood beneath her trembling feet pulsate with a life of its own, an unsettling reminder that this place was not merely a house. It was alive, and it hungered. "Mom," Ella's voice quivered beside her, the innocent tone wrapped in fear, sending chills creeping up Lucy's spine. She took a deep breath, gripping her daughter's small hand tighter. "Just stick close to me," Lucy whispered, trying to project calmness that she didn't feel. The hallway stretched endlessly, dimly lit by flickering bulbs that cast erratic shadows on the peeling wallpaper. A pastiche of faded photographs lined the walls, eyes in black and white watching their every move. Each face seemed to whisper secrets that faded before Lucy could grasp their meaning. "Where are we?" Ella asked, her voice barely above a whisper. I don't know," Lucy replied, feeling the heaviness in her own heart match the weight of the atmosphere. The hall opened into a grand foyer, where a gnarled staircase twisted upward, disappearing into darkness. It felt like a heartbeat, pushing them forward, each pulse urging them to ascend. A low moan echoed from above. Lucy froze, beads of sweat forming on her brow. "Did you hear that?" she asked, heart racing. "Yes." Ella nodded, her eyes wide with terror. The fear settled into a knot in Lucy's stomach. "We should check it out." "Maybe we should just leave," Ella urged, her hands shaking. "No. We need to know." Lucy's voice wavered, caught between motherly resolve and the instinct to run. They took tentative steps, each footfall drowned by the fading sounds of the mansion. The oppressive silence encased them, broken only by the sound of their breath and the soft pattering of shadows against the walls, as if whispering warnings about the danger ahead. As they climbed the staircase, Lucy's thoughts raced. Memories of her mother's last moments bobbed to the surface, like broken vessels in stormy waters. What had she found? Lucy wondered. What curse lived beneath this roof? Was it the same shadow that had intertwined them in its dark embrace? They reached the top. An eerie glow seeped from beneath a door, the aura pulsating like an anxious heartbeat. "This is it," Lucy breathed, pulling Ella closer. "Mom, I don't like this." Ella's voice was a frail plea. Before Lucy could respond, the door swung open with a disquieting creak. A room unfolded before them, bathed in a sickly yellow light that illuminated dust motes hanging in the stale air. The sight inside stole her breath away. The walls were lined with journals, hundreds of them, their spines cracked and frayed. Scribbled on the covers were names, dates, and symbols that seemed familiar yet foreign. Ella tugged on Lucy's sleeve. "What are those?" "Family histories, maybe, or accounts," Lucy murmured, stepping cautiously into the room. Her heart thudded louder, drowning out the whispers that now surged around them. Suddenly, the light flickered, and the shadows contorted. They danced like twisted figures, the air thickening with a palpable sense of dread. Lucy's eyes darted around the room, landing on a single journal lying open on a small, dust-covered table. It called to her as if the words were alive, beckoning her trembling fingers to turn the pages. But then a shape emerged from the shadows, rising behind her with an inhuman intensity, its voice a low growl draped in malice. "Welcome home, Lucy." Blood drained from her face. Time seemed to stop. The walls seemed to close in as she realized the truth she had long buried was now staring right back at her. "Run!" she screamed as the figure lunged forward, shadows exploding like a storm around them. But Ella was frozen in fear. "Mom, I can't." But Lucy had no choice. She had to pull her daughter away from whatever monstrosity this place had unleashed. As the shadows wrapped around them, closing in tight, Lucy understood one thing with terrifying clarity. The truth could indeed empower, but it could also destroy. Would they find the strength to escape this haunted legacy, or would the darkness claim them too? A chilling scream echoed through the mansion, and they dove for the door, praying they weren't too late. The moment they crossed the threshold, the world swung into chaos. The howling wind caught them, freezing Lucy in place. Deep inside the mansion, the figure lurked like a predator, wrapping around them with all the warmth of a winter's night. Shadows danced closer, a swirling sea of darkness eager to consume them. "Mom!" Ella's voice broke through the haze, a piercing cry that shattered Lucy's momentary paralysis. With a fierce tug, she wrenched her daughter to her side. The terror in Ella's eyes mirrored her own. "Move!" Lucy shouted, adrenaline surging. They darted past the door, heartbeats echoing in their ears, as the chilling malignance of the room pulsed behind them. The sense of safety diminished with every step they took. They stumbled down the hallway toward the stairs, but Lucy couldn't shake the feeling that eyes were trained on them from the shadows. Each creak beneath their hurried footsteps felt deliberate, as if the mansion itself were mocking their fear. Ella stumbled, her small frame nearly collapsing under the weight of panic. "Keep going," Lucy urged, glancing back. "Mom, what was that?" Ella gasped, her breath shaky. "I don't know, but we have to," Lucy began, when the shadows coalesced, a deafening roar echoing through the architecture, trashing any hope of calm. The ground trembled, as if angry at their intrusion. "Mom, please!" Ella cried, clutching her arm tight. "No!" Lucy's voice was fierce, dousing a flicker of doubt. "We don't have time." They barreled forward, realization dawning. Fleeing the house might not be enough. A primal instinct grew within her, a need to confront whatever lurked in the darkness. But as they reached the staircase, a familiar scream erupted from above, chilling Lucy to her core. It was a sound she knew all too well. Dread pooled coldly in her stomach. "Mom," she whispered, memories crashing like waves of torment. "Climb," she demanded, dragging Ella up the stairs. Each step felt heavier than the last. They climbed not just toward a physical space, but into the maw of their own nightmares. The walls groaned in discontent, the voices whispering louder, snatching at the edges of Lucy's reason. The eerie glow from the earlier room beckoned once more, vibrating through the energy that swirled around them. As they reached the top, Lucy hesitated, too drawn to the light to resist. "What if we find the answers?" she murmured almost to herself. Ella's face twisted in fear. "But what if we don't want to know?" A harsh wind whipped around them, the temperature dropping into the realm of ice. The shadows coiled tighter, and at that moment, urgency grabbed Lucy's heart. "We've come too far to back down now, Ella." She pulled open the door, but it was different. Far frayed edges of a darker reality seeped through, promises of understanding laced with peril. "What if I go in first?" Ella offered, though her voice trembled. "No," Lucy insisted, adrenaline fueling her choice. "I'll protect you, sweetheart." She felt the true surge in her bones. They needed to nurture that flicker of understanding before it vanished into despair. She stepped through the threshold again, the room now a living entity, swarming with chaos. The journals glowed ominously, each binding radiating secrets long kept dormant. "Read them," the whispers seemed to hiss as shadows writhed, forming figures that screamed of heartache. Realization struck with paralyzing force. "I know these names, they're mine," Lucy whispered. "Ella, they're all of us." She reached for a journal, but the instant she touched it, words erupted from the pages, swirling into the air like black smoke, coiling around her throat. "Mom!" Ella screamed. The darkness intensified as Lucy was overpowered by splintering memories, racing thoughts, nudging her consciousness. The scream of dozens collided with her vision, echoes from a lifetime past, intense woven with tragedy. Recognition crept upon her like a slow betrayal. They were entangled in a web that took form from her family's dark history. A sudden flash surged through the shadows, illuminating faces, horrifying reflections of those she once loved. "Ella!" Lucy shouted, fighting against the crushing weight. Panic ignited in her chest. "We have to get out. Now!" As she struggled to pull Ella back, the walls trembled, and a brilliant flash swallowed the room in blinding light. But the figure from earlier materialized once again in the brilliance, unfurling into a monstrous silhouette. "You can't run from the truth," it howled, the rancid breath washing over them, leaving Lucy gasping. In that moment, she realized the shadows were not just the mansion's curse. They were fragments of her own soul, manifesting to consume them. "Run!" she cried anew, as terror morphed into something darker, something she could feel clawing from within. But could they outrun the demons of her past, or would they be consumed by the very history they were trying to escape? The walls trembled in response, and the darkness pulsated with laughter. They were not alone anymore. What fate awaited them in this dance with shadows, and would the revelation set them free, or bind them tighter to the past? The echoes of Lucy's frantic heartbeat thundered in her ears, the room trembling around her as darkness warred against the flickering light. "Ella! We need to go." Panting, Lucy clutched her daughter's hand, both a lifeline and a beacon. The monstrous silhouette before them writhed, shadows curling like a malevolent smoke trying to shroud them. But Lucy was no longer willing to stand and let it consume them. In a raw moment of clarity, she remembered the words from her grandmother's journal, words that had pulsed with power. "The light cuts through the dark," she cried, forcing herself to focus on that fragment of hope. "Ella, repeat after me." "Mom, I can't. It's too loud." Ella's voice cracked, filled with terror. The weight of their past surged around them, clamoring for dominance. "Close your eyes. Feel the love around you," Lucy shouted, her grip tightening. "We are stronger than this." Determined, she closed her eyes and summoned every cherished memory night spent on the couch reading stories. Ella's laughter blooming like spring flowers, the warmth of their hugs. Each thought acted like fuel, igniting her spirit, pushing back against the encroaching darkness. "Together," she hollered, and Ella mirrored her. "Together." The room pulsed with a vibrant energy, their combined voices creating a radiance that cut through the swirling malice. The shadow wavered, caught off guard. "You think you can escape? You're bound by blood, by legacy." It taunted, but its voice trembled as if threatened by their light. "Legacy doesn't own us." Lucy felt the warmth radiating between them, a tether stronger than any familial curse. "We choose our fate." Ella's small hand squeezed back, and with renewed energy, Lucy pushed forward, willing every drop of light into the room. The air crackled as their words intertwined, their voices a melody against despair. The dark figure howled impotently, retreating as if hit by a fierce storm. "No! You cannot defy what is yours." Lucy felt the weight of the darkness begin to crumble. A chasm fissured beneath them, shadows splitting, twisting in pain as the light forced its way through the suffocating corridors. "Please, Mom. We can't stop," Ella cried, panic brimming in her young voice. "Keep going, baby. We're breaking it," Lucy gasped. Just as the whispers of their ancestors surged around them, despondent and despairing, Lucy remembered something crucial. Those names in the journals weren't just echoes of the past. They were warnings. She had the power to rewrite their legacy, to sever the bonds that chained her family to their history. Suddenly, from within the heart of the light, a singular voice emerged, resonating stronger than the chaos surrounding them. "You will never be alone, Lucy." Lucy turned towards the apparition of her grandmother, radiating warmth even amidst the darkness. "You are not what they made you, dear." Her voice rang clear, wrapping around Lucy like a comforting blanket. "You hold the power to break free, and the love in your heart will illuminate even the deepest darkness." With renewed vigor, Lucy and Ella pressed on, their combined strength spiraling into a forceful wave of brilliance that washed over the shadows. Lucy held tightly to the journal. It felt alive in her hands, pushing her forward, guiding her in a dance against despair. As the shadows howled in fury, they threw up their arms, screams of anguish piercing through the oppressive silence, chaotic souls unwinding into the light. With one final push, Lucy hollered, "You don't own us. You don't control what we become." The shadows flared violently, and warmth engulfed them, a brilliant explosion of golden light that splintered the dark like fragile glass shattering in a storm. A thunderous pulse rang out, and suddenly they stood on solid ground drenched in the sunlight filtering through a majestic oak tree. The mansion behind them collapsed inward, shadows scattering with the downfall of its malevolence. Lucy blinked, disbelief hanging in the air. She turned to Ella, tears streaming down her cheeks, but there was a smile. A smile of freedom. "Mom." "We did it," Ella whispered, her eyes shining like stars. Gulping back the emotions that surged inside her, Lucy cradled her daughter's face, pulling her into a fierce embrace. "We did. We broke the cycle. We're free." They stood together, illuminated by sunlight, the weight of generations lifting, leaving behind the echo of their haunting legacy. And for the first time, Lucy allowed herself to breathe, savoring the sweetness of the moment as they walked away from shadows, hand in hand, into a place filled with possibility. As they stepped forward, leaving the darkness in their rear view, Lucy knew they had turned a page not just in their story, but in the story of all those who came before. And in that moment, they reclaimed their future, no longer bound to a past they did not choose. Now is your moment to join us. Don't miss out. Subscribe immediately to ensure you're updated on the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. We want to hear from you, so flood the comments with your reactions and theories about this wild ending. And remember, instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion, because together we can grow our community. You need to show your support, step up, and be a part of this journey with us.